In this video, we're going to code our first HTML page. So I'm going to show just briefly both the Notepad version with the PC and also the Edity version with Mac. And then I'm going to primarily use the Notepad coding with the PC, but just keep in mind it's going to look pretty similar on Edity as well. Okay, so recall from last time that we made this empty web page 01. If you want to start with that one, you can. If you want to start a new Notepad file and just save it as a .html file, that works as well. If you want to keep using the one that you did, you would open up Notepad first and then go under File, Open, and then you're going to look for that HTML page. Now there's one little trick to doing that, and I'll show you that right now. So under the file name, you want to make sure instead of it saying text documents, you want it to look for all files, and then you'll be able to find your web page. So notice if you have it just set to text documents, which is the default, you won't be able to see your web page. If you set it to all files, then you will. So if you go ahead and do that and then hit open, that'll bring you up to your page. And keep that in mind for whenever you want to come back and edit a file in coding view rather than through the browser. Because remember, if you just click on it, it's going to bring it up in the browser like this. Okay, so as we start our page, we're going to start just with a basic line that's going to tell the browser what type of file this is. And that's this little tag, and this is one that doesn't have a partner. It's just announcing to the browser that's going to be compiling the file that it's a doc type HTML. And then we're going to put in this structure tag that just tells, again, says what kind of file it is. And then a couple more structures, and I'll explain these in 1 second. Okay, so there's a head and a body section. So in the head section, this is where things like extra script, the title of the page that shows up in the top of the browser, and we'll see that in a second, analytics code, links to cascading style sheets and bootstrapped programs, all that goes in the head. Those are things, what you put in the head are things that are not meant to be viewed on the page. They're actually extraneous to the content of the page, but they're needed. And so those kinds of elements go in the head of the file. In the body, that's where you're going to get your actual displayed page content. You're going to use your structure HTML tags, and eventually we're going to integrate our CSS to give that the look that we want. So that's those. I'm just going to real quick show this same deal. And just to make it easy on myself and to save you the time of my typing, I'm just going to go ahead and copy. So remember, like I said, I'm going to show you the Edity, just getting that started as well. So here's that that web page 01 that we made last time. And if you want to, again, open that up again to edit, you're going to right click on it, or the equivalent of that in a Mac, get the context menu open. You're going to choose Open with Edity. And then you're going to get something that looks like this. And remember, the preview screen is over here on the right, code is over on the left. And you would put in the exact same coding that I just did, typing it in on Notepad. Same deal where you've got the HTML and then you've got your head and your body, and it's going to serve the same exact purpose. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and mainly type in my Notepad here. But just keep in mind the exact same things that I'm showing you, you're going to do if you're using Edity as well. Okay, so let me just demonstrate this notion of the head and the things that go in there that are extraneous to the body content that's going to go here. So one really easy one that we can look at is the title. So there's this code. Now again, remember, here's how it's going to work in order for you to see the coding that you're doing. When you type in something over here and you want to refresh it and see it over in the browser, you're going to hit save. And then over here, you will reload the page, whether you use that or there's a reload up here as well. Now notice what happened. It's subtle, but right here we have now the title web page 01, right? And that's exactly what we wrote here. And if we change that, And every time you want to change it, if you want to see it over here, you want to make sure you save it. But notice when we change it, that's really changing the name in this tab. So that's the title. Now notice, again, this is content that you can see, but it's not part of the body, of the main part of the page. So that's why this particular value goes up in the head rather than down in the body. Now, in the body of your file, this is where we're going to start authoring some content. And I'm going to use that same example that we started with last time, if you recall. So I'm just using a real simple tag, H1, and that's a first level heading. So all of the things that are sort of main sections, you want to use first level headings or H1 headings to differentiate that text from anything else. So here you go. There's our H1. I'm going to go ahead and put a paragraph in there. So notice what I did here. So in my Notepad file, I went ahead and added some line breaks in my paragraph. And I just wanted to demonstrate to you that HTML doesn't care about the line breaks that I'm adding in my Notepad file, right? It just totally ignored those and still made that all one line. Now, there are things we can do to break that line should we wish to do that. In fact, there's a little code called break. It's just a BR and a slash because it's one that doesn't have an end code. And so if we really wanted to break that line, we sure could. And then it would look like I have it coded here. But this just demonstrates, I hope, that every single thing that you code, every keystroke matters in your Notepad file, and all those things are meaningful. So if you have a decent idea in mind of how you want your page to look, you really need to encode every element of that into the HTML in a way that the browser can read and then do what it is you're trying to do. So this just gives us a little bit of content on the page. This is a perfectly good functioning HTML, so that works for what we're doing for right now. And there's one other thing I just want to leave you with. So let me just note what we've done here. So what we've done here is we put in our top level structural tag, the HTML tag. Then we've got our other structures, the head and the body. And notice how these tags are working. We talked about this before, that they come in pairs. This is the beginning of the head of the document. This is the end. This is the beginning of the body. This is the end. So things that are extraneous to the page, those are going to go in the head. And right now, we're just putting the title there. But eventually, we're going to have a lot of other things that we want to put in there. And you'll see that that head space is actually quite useful. And then the body, that's what we're going to focus on for a while here at first. This is where we're going to have the content of the page. So we have all these things that we can see are the content, and then we're surrounding them with our tags in order to create the structure that we want and, just a little bit of formatting. Obviously, this is just some default formatting for the heading and for paragraphs, and eventually we're going to learn how to really customize that and style these things. We learned just a few tags here, H1 for a level 1 heading, P for a paragraph, and BR for a break. H1 and P, just like body, head, and HTML, are tags that come in pairs, beginning and end. BR is an example of a single code tag where it just has one element and you put the beginning and the end all together in the same. So notice the little difference here is in this single code tag, that / actually goes after the tag because that's actually representing the beginning and end all together. It's different than an actual end tag, a discrete end tag like this one, where the / goes before the tag. Okay, so we'll continue seeing this distinction. The other main one that we're going to see that functions like this is image, IMG. That one also doesn't have an end tag to it. It's a beginning and an end all in itself. So we'll get to that one eventually. But in the meantime, most of the tags you're going to see will come in pairs like this. And so you have to make sure that you've got your beginning and your end. The last thing that I want to do is let's demonstrate a property. So here we have just the plain old tags themselves. But there's one other thing we can do within our angle bracket space, and that is to add a property to a tag. And tags have different specific properties that go with them. And then there are also some universal properties like the class property. You can add a class property on pretty much any tag that goes in the body of an HTML page. And again, we'll definitely revisit that later. But for the moment, let's just add a property to our first HTML tag, because this is best practice for coding, so we can go ahead and start that now. There's a property called lang, and it just is the language of your page. So we just want to explain to the browser that we are writing this page in English, so that if there's a screen reader for someone who is visually impaired, it knows what language to use, and also for translating algorithms, this is useful. So the code for English is just EN, and if we want to get real specific about it, there is a code for each English-speaking country, and ours in America is EN-US, obviously for United States. And there's a little hyphenated, two-letter code for other English-speaking countries as well. So up to you whether you want to use EN or EN-US, but that is going to set the property of what language this page is coded in, right? And that's how that looks. So this is another valid way of encoding. When you're adding a property, you want to put it inside the angle brackets with just one space separating it from its tag. And if there were more properties, I would do a space after and add in other properties. And we'll see that eventually. So there you go. This is your first web page. And just to finish it off, I'm going to just return to the version here. Just enter a title. We can do the same thing where we are adding in the property. And notice nothing's happened over here yet on the preview screen, because the preview screen only shows the body entity, so that's something to note. And once I start doing that, though, you can see not only does my content appear, but it's already encoded. And so notice that just exactly as I've been typing, it's been previewing over here for you. So again, same thing in both. So typically I'm going to be using the Notepad option, but just remember, whatever we're doing in Notepad, you can also do in Edity. Your page will function exactly the same, and when you download it to turn in or to upload on the server, it's going to work just like the pages that we're coding in Notepad.